There exists a botanical marvel capable of eradicating the very notion of hunger. This plant yields sustenance throughout all 12 months of the year. Every component, its root, stem, pollen, and seed, is entirely edible. Flourishing in any climate where water meets land, it surpasses potatoes in starch production by a factor of 10 per acre. This feat is achieved without requiring a single drop of fertilizer, tilling, or human planting. For 3 millennia, this served as humanity's primary food source. Subsequently, we depleted this natural larder, supplanting a perpetually abundant system with seasonal agricultural practices that contaminate our water. We then disparagingly labeled this historically invaluable plant a weed. This narrative recounts the saga of the neglected wetland supermarket, discarded just when its utility became most critical. The story commences 30,000 years in the past, on the banks of China's Yangtze River. An archaeological site, dating from the Paleolithic era, presented researchers with an unexpected discovery among ancient tools: starch grains. These were not derived from wheat or rice, but from the roots of an indigenous wetland plant. Human remnants were also unearthed, confirming that long before the advent of agriculture, prior to any conceptualization of plowing a field, humans processed this plant into flour. Fast forward to a 30,000-year-old site in Italy, where grinding stones bore identical residues. This was not merely a fallback food. It was a dietary cornerstone in a world where survival hinged on recognizing prime harvesting opportunities. Our forebears selected this plant not out of sentiment, but for their very existence. This plant is the cattail, scientifically identified as Typha latifolia, meticulously honed by evolution for continuous nourishment. While most crops provide a single annual harvest, the cattail delivers 4. In the early spring, tender shoots emerge from the mud. Peeling their outer layers reveals a crisp, white core with a flavor reminiscent of cucumber. When Europeans first encountered it in Russia, they dubbed it Cossack asparagus, a delicacy that rescued countless individuals from scurvy after harsh winters. As early summer arrives, green flower heads materialize. Before pollination, these are harvested and boiled, offering a taste akin to corn on the cob, yet with a richer, earthy complexity. By midsummer, the male flowers release their pollen. This is not mere dust, but a golden, high-protein flower, instantly ready for collection. A single stalk can yield tablespoons of this substance with a simple shake. Indigenous communities combined it with water to craft vibrant yellow cakes and breads. During winter, when the majority of the world lies dormant and frozen, the true treasure lies beneath the ground. Digging up the rhizomes, one finds them packed with 30% to 46% starch by weight. A single acre of cattails can produce 6,400 pounds of flour, surpassing wheat, corn, and rye, all without a single seed ever being planted. The Paiute people designated a clan explicitly as cattail eaters, and the Cahuilla referred to themselves as the cattail people. Daniel Moorman's expansive ethnobotanical database, which chronicles Native American plant utilization, features one of its most extensive entries on cattails. Virtually every tribe residing near water bodies comprehended its significance. They dried the roots for winter storage and ground them into flour for porridge. However, its utility extended beyond food. It was also a form of technology. They expertly wove the leaves into waterproof mats for wigwams and twisted the fibers into cordage exceeding the strength of hemp. The fluff from the seed heads served to insulate moccasins against freezing snow, and as lining for infant diapers. The gel found between young leaves functioned as a potent antiseptic and anesthetic, employed for treating wounds and toothaches. A single plant furnished food, medicine, shelter, and clothing. A naturally occurring stand can boast 86,000 stems per acre, and an individual root system can expand to cover 3 acres. This was not a weed. It was a fundamental infrastructure, requiring nothing. For 30,000 years, this defined prosperity. So how did such a prolific food system disappear? Its demise was not ecological, but policy-driven. The eradication commenced in 1849, when the United States Congress enacted the first Swamp Land Act, ceding millions of acres of federal wetlands to states under a singular directive: drain them. The prevailing economic ideology of the 19th century posited that water-occupying land was unproductive. An 1822 geological dictionary characterized a swamp as a piece of land with wet, miry soil. Such land is unprofitable, or even a nuisance, until it be drained. Nuisance. This was the term applied to the very ecosystem that sustained the continent. By 1850, the act expanded, transferring 50 million acres in Arkansas, Alabama, California, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, and Wisconsin, with the explicit mandate to obliterate their hydrology. The government disseminated instructional guides with titles such as "Draining for Profit," becoming popular bestsellers. In 1902, the invention of the Buckeye steam traction ditcher mechanized this destruction, laying drainage tiles faster than 100 men. Ohio's Great Black Swamp, once a vast carbon sink and food forest, was completely desiccated. The Florida Everglades, spanning 20 million acres, were channeled and diverted. The Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta was drained. Between the 1950s and 1970s, agricultural drainage alone annihilated 12 million acres of wetlands. Of the original 221 million acres of wetlands in the contiguous 48 states, only 103 million now remain. More than half vanished. And with them, the cattails. What emerged in their stead? The Corn Belt, now the world's most agriculturally rich region. We exchanged a perennial, self-sustaining food system for annual crops demanding billions of dollars in fertilizer, pesticides, and diesel fuel. However, wetlands were not solely drained for agricultural purposes. They were also drained because cattails harbored a critical flaw: their uncontrollability. One cannot market cattail seeds, as they self-replant annually. Patenting a plant that proliferates 3 acres from a single root system is impossible. Taxing individuals for simply venturing into a marsh to gather pollen is equally unfeasible. A perennial, self-renewing food system poses a fundamental threat to an economy predicated on scarcity. Consequently, wetlands were drained, cattails were destroyed, and their inherent knowledge was dismissed as primitive. Yet knowledge is more resilient than plants, and nature possesses a remarkable capacity for providing remedies to the predicaments we ourselves create. Modern research into cattails commenced in the 1980s, initially not for food, but for energy. Scientists in Minnesota discovered that cattails yield 22 tons of biomass per acre, an astonishing amount of energy. Subsequently, researchers made an even more crucial finding. Cattails function as the Earth's kidneys. They absorb nitrogen and phosphorus from contaminated water. The fertilizers applied to our cornfields flow into water bodies, precipitating toxic algal blooms. Planting cattails effectively soaks up this pollution. Harvesting 250 acres of cattails extracts 5 tons of phosphorus from the ecosystem. When this biomass is incinerated for fuel, the residual ash is pure fertilizer, phosphorus captured and ready for reapplication to fields, forming a closed-loop system. The International Institute for Sustainable Development in Manitoba has been commercially harvesting cattails since 2012, achieving yields of 15 to 20 tons per acre. Each ton sequesters over 1 ton of carbon dioxide. Because cattails are perennial, they are harvested much like a lawn. They are cut and regenerate the following year, requiring no plowing, planting, or mitigating erosion. Contrast this with corn. Annual planting, tilled soil, eroded topsoil, and polluted water. Cattails, conversely, purify water, enrich soil, sequester carbon, and provide food for 12 months of the year. Nevertheless, this vital information is largely unknown. We persist in labeling them as weeds. Landowners across North America expend millions of dollars annually spraying herbicides to eliminate the continent's most productive food plant. We are effectively poisoning the solution to safeguard the problem. The story of the cattail is not one of rediscovery. It is one of recognition. The knowledge was never lost, merely disregarded. Now, as the world invests billions in engineering drought-resistant crops and carbon capture technologies, the answer has quietly awaited in the roadside ditch. The plant that sustained humanity for 12 months annually, the plant that endured the drainage of 65 million acres, never ceased offering its bounty. It simply awaited our remembrance. This knowledge is not lost. It thrives in every marsh, on every riverbank, at the edge of every pond. The plant we once dismissed as a weed may well embody the future of survival. All it demands is for us to look beyond the immediate profits of the plow and perceive what has always been there, the supermarket of the swamp. If this revelation resonated with you, consider subscribing to Nature Lost Vault and hitting the notification bell. Every like and share contributes to the preservation of this wisdom. The next vault will soon be unveiled.